I spent 20 years as a vascular surgeon studying blood vessels, blood flow, circulation, disease prevention. And you know what I discovered? The most powerful pharmacy in the world isn't in a hospital. It's not in a lab. It's literally inside your gut, right now, in your stomach. And the currency of that pharmacy, it's bacteria. Now, I know what you're thinking. Bacteria sounds bad, right? But here's what nobody tells you. The foods you eat today determine which bacteria survive in your gut tomorrow. And the bacteria that survive, they're either going to extend your life or steal your years. Which foods are you actually feeding? Section 1, the revelation. Several years back, something fascinated me. Remember those centenarians I studied? People living past 100, some even past 110? Vibrant, sharp, not in nursing homes, living their best lives. I wanted their secret. So we did what scientists do, sequenced their bacteria, ran computational biology on the data, looked for patterns that stood out. 4 bacteria emerged as the standouts. In people 100 years and older, these 4 appeared in dramatically higher levels than any other population, higher than 50-year-olds, higher than 70-year-olds. Just abundant. And here's what blew my mind. These bacteria don't appear by accident. They're not magic. They don't come from expensive probiotic bottles sitting on pharmacy shelves. Asterisk, asterisk. They come from what you eat. That's where most people get it wrong. Buy a supplement, take it for a week, nothing changes. Why? Because probiotics are like tourists visiting your gut. They show up, don't know anyone, and most of them leave. But the foods that feed these bacteria, those are the residents. Those are what actually build that ecosystem long term. So which foods actually feed those 4 powerhouse bacteria? That's what we're breaking down today. Section 2, the 4 bacteria and their superpowers, asterisk, asterisk, bacteria, #1, Akkermansia, asterisk, asterisk, Akkermansia, Akkermansia. Write that down. This one's a heavyweight. In centenarians, Akkermansia numbers skyrocket. Why? This bacteria does something remarkable. It actually strengthens the lining of your gut. Think of it like reinforcing the walls of a fortress. A healthy barrier keeps bad stuff out and good stuff in. But that's just the beginning. Akkermansia also regulates blood glucose, controls inflammation, and here's where the research gets fascinating. It might actually protect your brain, neurodegeneration. We're talking about potentially slowing cognitive decline. Then came last year's discovery. Scientists found something wild on the shell of Akkermansia, a particle called P9. And even when you kill the bacteria, even when it's just fragments floating around, the P9 particle still works. You know what it does? It signals your gut to produce more natural GLP-1. For those unfamiliar with GLP-1, that's the molecule everyone talks about now. It regulates blood sugar, reduces appetite, supports metabolic health. This bacteria is literally making its own version, and your gut pumps it out naturally. That's not a supplement, that's evolution. That's brilliant design. Asterisk, asterisk, bacteria. #2, Christensenella, asterisk, asterisk. Meet Christensenella, Christensenella. This one's the metabolic regulator. High levels of Christensenella correlate with better blood sugar control, better lipid profiles, lower triglycerides, better cholesterol ratios, and here's what's really interesting. This bacteria seems to influence how efficiently your body processes food. Imagine having a personal metabolic tutor living in your gut. That's Christensenella. Asterisk, bacteria, #3, Odoribacter, asterisk, asterisk. Odoribacter works as a security guard. It fights off specific harmful bacteria. While these organisms try to set up shop in your gut, Odoribacter keeps them from taking hold. Asterisk, asterisk, bacteria, #4, Ocelobacter, asterisk, asterisk. Ocelobacter regulates inflammation throughout your entire body. Chronic inflammation is the gasoline to disease, cancer, heart disease, brain degeneration. This bacteria helps keep that fire from spreading. Asterisk, asterisk. Think about what we're talking about here. One set of bacteria, 4 different health pathways: blood sugar regulation, inflammation control, brain protection, metabolic efficiency. gut barrier health. And all of it comes from what you put on your plate. Section 3, the foods that feed these bacteria. Here's something important about feeding bacteria. It doesn't have to be complicated. Different fibers feed different bacteria. Your digestive system can't break down prebiotic fiber, which sounds like a problem, but it's actually perfect. Because what you can't digest, your bacteria eat. It's symbiotic. Your bacteria multiply. As they multiply, they produce metabolites that heal your gut, regulate immunity, and create those beneficial compounds we discussed. So which foods are loaded with prebiotic fiber? Let me give you the top tier. 1. Garlic and onions asterisk. Raw garlic especially is an Akkermansia superfood. One study showed raw garlic consumption specifically increased Akkermansia within weeks. Now, I know, raw garlic is intense, but the compound that makes it powerful is called inulin. Heat destroys some of it, but not all. Whether you eat garlic raw in a salad, roasted with vegetables, or minced into a dressing, you're still feeding those bacteria. Same with onions. Red onions especially. The quercetin in onions also feeds Akkermansia. 2. Asparagus asterisk. Asparagus functions like fertilizer for good bacteria. It's loaded with inulin, that prebiotic compound. Cook it, roast it, eat it raw, doesn't matter. The fiber is still there feeding your bacteria. One fascinating study watched people eating asparagus regularly for just 3 weeks. Measurable increase in beneficial bacteria. 3 weeks, not months, not years, 3 weeks. 3. Bananas, particularly underripe, asterisk. Here's what's interesting about bananas. When they're slightly green, they contain resistant starch. Resistant starch is another prebiotic powerhouse. It resists digestion in your small intestine and becomes food for your gut bacteria in your colon. Ripe bananas have more sugar, less resistant starch. So if you're specifically trying to feed Akkermansia and Christianella, eat your bananas when they're still slightly green. 4. Artichokes asterisk. Artichokes are basically concentrated fiber bombs. Inulin packed. They're like the most nutrient-dense prebiotic food you can eat. One medium artichoke has more prebiotic fiber than a bowl of oatmeal. 5. Chicory root asterisk. Chicory root contains one of the highest sources of inulin on the planet. But here's the thing, it's not commonly eaten as a food. You typically find it as a supplement or added to coffee blends. If you can find chicory root powder or chicory-based coffee, it's an incredible tool. 6. Whole grains, specifically oats, barley, whole wheat, asterisk. I want to be specific here because whole grains gets thrown around a lot. We're talking about old-fashioned oats, barley, whole wheat bread. The key is that the fiber remains intact. These grains feed Oscillobacter especially, the inflammation regulator. Regular consumption of intact whole grains reduces inflammatory markers in your bloodstream. 7. Legumes. Beans, lentils, chickpeas, asterisk. Legumes are loaded with multiple types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. They're also rich in polyphenols, which act as food for your good bacteria and have direct anti-inflammatory effects. Black beans, lentils, chickpeas, they all work. But here's a pro tip. If you're not used to eating legumes, introduce them slowly. Your bacteria will adapt, but suddenly eating massive amounts can cause bloating and gas as your bacterial ecosystem adjusts. 8. Fermented foods, but with a caveat. Asterisk. People always ask me, what about fermented foods? Yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi? Here's the nuance. Fermented foods contain live bacteria. Those are probiotics. They're helpful, but remember, they're tourists. Most don't survive your stomach acid. However, and this is important, fermented foods also contain dead bacterial cell walls and metabolites that bacteria produce. And those have biological effects. They feed your existing bacteria. They support your immune system directly. Fermented foods work best when combined with prebiotic foods. The prebiotic feeds your existing bacteria. The probiotic adds visitors. The fermented foods provide metabolites. Together, that's synergy. 9. Berries and polyphenol-rich foods. Asterisk. Blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, Raspberries, all loaded with polyphenols. These plant compounds are what your gut bacteria love. Also consider dark chocolate, red wine, green tea, pomegranate, all high in polyphenols. Now, I'm not saying drink red wine for health, but if you do, you're feeding your bacteria. That's the biological reality. All these foods share one thing in common. They're whole foods, unprocessed or minimally processed. They contain fiber your body can't digest, but your bacteria can. Contrast that with ultra-processed foods, cookies, chips, sugary cereals, refined bread. These are designed to be quickly digestible. Your gut gets the calories. Your bacteria get nothing. Meanwhile, what bacteria thrive on empty calories and refined carbs? The bad ones. The ones that cause inflammation. The ones that weaken your gut barrier. Feed your good bacteria, and you starve the bad bacteria. Feed the bad bacteria, and you're selecting for the wrong ecosystem. Section 4. The practical protocol. Now you know what feeds your bacteria. The question is, how do you actually eat them? Here's my recommendation. Asterisk, daily non-negotiables. 1 serving of alliums, garlic or onions, daily. Could be in a salad, in a soup, roasted with dinner. 1 serving of asparagus or artichokes several times a week. 1 serving of legumes or beans 3 to 4 times a week. 1 serving of whole grains daily, oats for breakfast, whole grain bread for lunch, barley in soup, berries or polyphenol-rich foods daily, fresh berries, dark chocolate, green tea. That's it. You're not overthinking this. You're not counting macros. You're just eating foods known to feed your beneficial bacteria. Asterisk. 1 critical point. Diversity matters. Asterisk. Your gut bacteria thrive on diversity. Different fibers feed different bacteria. Different polyphenols trigger different responses. The goal isn't eating the same thing every day. Rotate instead. Monday you eat black beans. Wednesday you eat lentils. Thursday you eat chickpeas. 1 week you focus on asparagus. Next week you add artichokes. Your bacteria need variety, like a garden needs crop rotation. Asterisk. 1 more thing. The transition period. If you're coming from a diet heavy in processed foods and suddenly triple your fiber intake, your gut will rebel. Bloating, gas, digestive discomfort. This is actually a good sign. Your bacteria are waking up. They're starting to ferment that fiber. That fermentation produces gases and metabolites, but it's uncomfortable. Here's my recommendation. Increase your prebiotic foods gradually. Over 2 to 3 weeks, your bacterial ecosystem will adapt. Your digestive system will adapt. You'll avoid the painful transition phase. Section 5. Why this matters for longevity. Tone. Zooming out, bigger picture, emotional connection. I've spent my career looking at the biology of aging, cellular mechanisms, inflammation, oxidative stress, genetic pathways. What I've learned is this: longevity isn't determined by one thing, it's determined by thousands of small choices. Day after day, meal after meal, one of the most powerful choices you can make, one that influences your immune system, your metabolism, your brain health, your inflammation, your cardiovascular health, is what you feed your bacteria. Because here's the reality. You're not just you. You're an ecosystem. 39 trillion bacteria living in your gut. They're not separate from you. They're part of you. When you feed them right, they feed you back. With metabolites that protect your cells, with immune signals that keep you healthy, with anti-inflammatory compounds that keep your tissues young. The people who live to 100, 110, beyond, they're not doing anything magical. They're not taking exotic supplements. They're eating foods that feed their bacteria. They're living in symbiosis with the life inside them. That's the secret to not just living long, but living well, living vibrant, living with energy and clarity and presence. That's what we're really after, isn't it? Not just years in your life, but life in your years. Closing and call to action. Here's what I want you to do right now. Look at what you ate today. Look at what you're planning to eat tomorrow. Ask yourself, did I feed my bacteria? Did I eat fiber? Did I eat a whole food that my good bacteria can ferment? Or did I feed the bad bacteria with processed, refined foods? That one question asked honestly makes the difference between accelerating your aging or extending your health span. Now, I know this is information heavy. You're probably thinking, okay, but how do I actually build this into my life? How do I create a meal plan? How do I know I'm doing it right? That's exactly why I created something for you. I've put together a complete guide, Foods that Feed Your Centenarian Bacteria. It includes a printable food list ranked by prebiotic content, a 4-week meal plan using these specific foods, the science behind why each food works, recipes that taste amazing but are designed to feed Akkermansia and the other powerhouse bacteria. The link is in the description. It's free. No email sign-up required. Just practical, ready-to-use information. If you found this valuable, if you're ready to start feeding your bacteria instead of destroying them, please subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. We're diving deeper into the biology of aging, the foods that extend your life, and the daily practices that add years of vibrant health. The science of longevity isn't complicated, but it does require knowing what to do. That's what we're building here. Your future self will thank you.